are going to wait another minute or two to officially begin. So once I feel like we've got all of our participants in the session, we will start the presentation.
For those of, as Mr. Michael is waiting, for those of you who'd like, you could actually also, I sent an email about 20 minutes ago that provides you with this PowerPoint of the presentation. You don't need it right now, but I just want to let you know that it should be in your email for access afterwards.
Also, for those family members who did attend device pickup last week, if your child's Chromebook is available and if your child is watching with you, which would be great, feel free to have them sign on to the Chromebook and try to access Schoology in a little while when we get to that step. If you don't know how to do that just yet, totally fine. And if you would rather just watch and try the device later on, that's also fine. I just wanted to say that that's a pretty good idea to try it out while we're going through if you have the device available. We'll start in about 1 more minute. All right, I'm going to go ahead and begin. Just so everybody knows, we are recording this webinar. So parents who aren't able to attend, or those of you who want to go back and review any of the content, will have access to it in the near future at the district website at www.d64.org. And as Mr. Baldoff said a moment ago, for those of you who are already signed in, the slides that we're presenting from this evening have been emailed to parents as well. You do not need to follow along tonight, but we want you to have access to the content and information for future reference. So let me introduce myself. I am Kevin Michael. I'm the Instructional Technology Coach, or ITC for short, at Carpenter School. I've been there, this is my 6th year as the ITC at Carpenter. And I'm joined by panelists, Ms. Emily Crean, who is the Assistant Principal at Carpenter School, Ms. Ashley Hardiman, who is our Technologist at Carpenter School, and Mr. Brett Baldoff, our Principal. And they are our panelists for tonight. So you may have noticed in your Zoom window or in your Zoom tab, if you're at Zoom on the web, that you have access to a tool called Q&A. So while I'm presenting, if there are any questions that you have, go ahead and type those in the Q&A, and then after the presentation, Ms. Hardiman is going to read through the questions, and the 4 of us will answer those questions for the attendees. So this is the one-to-one student and parent Chromebook orientation for grades 2 and 3 at Carpenter School. We are going to be sharing information about the Chromebooks themselves, but also information about learning management systems. We'll be talking a little bit about both Seesaw and Schoology and how students and teachers will be using those platforms for both remote learning and in-person instruction later in the year when students are back in the buildings. Just want to remind everyone viewing that for students to be successful in school, it requires support and dedication, not only on the students' part, but also from the parents and from the district. So all of us working together can support our learners and help them succeed this school year. Some creative photos of home learning spaces that some parents have created. So these are very Pinterest worthy, I would say. Something you might want to set up if you have the space and the ability at home. It's definitely good for our students, even though they are in remote learning, to feel like they are officially at school during instructional time. So anything that you can do as far as setting up your child's learning space to support them, and that would be beneficial. So we talked about students, families, and the district being the three pillars of support for student success. So we all have our own expectations when it comes to that. So here are some of the expectations for students. Students will need to use their device, the Chromebook, in a responsible and ethical manner. They will need to follow the D64 one-to-one digital learning handbook. There is a link to that handbook here in the slides. And again, if you're looking for it later on, this is on slide 5 of tonight's presentation. It is a pretty lengthy document, but I do want to strongly encourage all families to read through it together, parent and student, and encourage your student to ask questions about any of the content in that handbook they might not understand or might need clarified. And whether students are in the school building or learning from home, while they're on the district device and district accounts, they're expected to obey school rules just like they would in person. They're expected to take care of the devices so that they work properly for the entire time students are using them as students in the district. And once we resume in-person instruction, students will need to bring a fully charged Chromebook to school with them on a daily basis, so they have it ready to use throughout the day. Moving on to expectations of family to support our learners. We encourage parents to talk about your own values and standards as far as students using technology in a one-to-one setting and having access to the internet and online accounts. We encourage you to make sure that you are monitoring your students' internet activity and use of the device as a learning tool and that they are being good digital citizens. And we want to make sure that you continually remind students that this is a device that's used for learning, and it is a device that belongs to the district and is given to the students for the purpose of their learning and instruction in the district. Other suggestions for families, if you haven't already done this, you might want to have a planning meeting about the Chromebook, such as where will it be kept and used during instruction? Where will it be plugged in and charged every night or when students are not using it for school activities? And if you have other questions about how often the Chromebook would be used or how it would be used in instruction, that would be a question to ask your child's teachers. And of course, as a district, we have expectations as well to support your family members in their learning. So one of the things the district does is we have provided a device for each student. So every second and third grade student has a Chromebook to use. When the students are in the school buildings, we provide internet access for those devices to connect to the internet. We also provide internet filtering. Now that filtering is not only on our district Wi-Fi, but it's also through a software that is installed on the Chromebooks themselves. I'll tell you more about that later on, but there is filtering on the device even when they're connected to a network outside of District 64. And then our expectation for us is also that we're providing an effective learning environment for one-to-one learning. So teachers and students will be taught how to use not only the device, but also how to use Schoology, Seesaw, and other online learning platforms. So I mentioned filtering a moment ago. We use a filtering tool that is installed on the Chromebook device itself called Securely. And what that does is it provides filters to block inappropriate online content, which would include Google searches, websites, YouTube videos, etc. Please be aware that these security measures are not foolproof, but they are an extremely effective tool. But we also want to, again, encourage you to support your students in being good digital citizens and making responsible choices in how they use the device. You will find out more about Securely and how you can get information about your child's online searches later on in this presentation. So for our students, for our second and third graders who may be watching this evening, we want you to be aware that your Chromebook is a fragile piece of technology and it needs to be handled with care. So you'll need to be gentle when you're using it. You'll need to keep it clean. You do not want to have the Chromebook near food or water. Please don't have it out and in use while you're eating or drinking. If you're given a break to have a snack or if it's time for lunch, the Chromebook should not be by the food or by the water. Students are provided with a case for the Chromebook. The Chromebook should remain in the case at all times unless a teacher has directed a student to remove it from the case to use it in tablet mode. There is a shoulder strap attached to the case. So when students are carrying the Chromebook around the house, or once we're back in in-person instruction, carrying it around the building, it should be in the case with the zipper closed and the shoulder strap over the shoulder for carrying the device. Students' devices came with name tag information, I believe, both on the case and the Chromebook itself, and that information needs to be left in place. And other than those stickers that were already placed on the Chromebook by the technology department, no other stickers, Post-it notes, personal decorations of any kind can go on the device, because that device is district property and it needs to be treated as such. Sorry, no putting any of the Visco stickers that you would put on your hydro flask on your Chromebook. My daughter just got a bunch of those at a party. For kids, cleaning your device. If you need to clean the screen, all the Chromebooks are touchscreen devices at every grade level this year, which is very exciting. But as any of us with smartphones know, touchscreen devices often get fingerprints, smudges, oil from our fingers on them, and they need to be kept clean. So microfiber cloth is the best method for cleaning the screen. It can also be used to wipe off the keyboard and the touchpad. Those can be found at any tech stores. They can be found in glasses cleaning kits. If you wear eyeglasses, they can be purchased at drugstores. They're pretty easy to come by. And of course, any of your online retailers will sell them as well. If anyone is wondering about printing, although we are in full remote instruction to start the year, we know that especially for younger learners, there are times where technology might not be a suitable replacement for a hands-on paper, pencil, scissors, and crayons type of activity. If there's ever anything shared by a teacher that needs to be printed, you will, in most cases, be able to connect the Chromebook to your family's home printer. If the printer has a USB cable, it should simply be a matter of plugging in the USB cable from your printer to the side of the Chromebook in one of the USB ports. If you have a wireless only printer in your house, if you look on the bottom of this slide, and again, you don't need to be following along right now, but you have access to these slides, and on slide 12 at the bottom, there's this short URL, a bit.ly link, bit.ly/D64 printers. If you go to that site, there is a list of different printer models, and it will tell you if your printer is compatible with what's called cloud printing, which is how Chromebooks wirelessly send information to printers. Once we are back to in-person instruction, in the event that a student either forgets to bring his or her Chromebook to school, or brings the Chromebook but forgot to charge it and so the battery is dead, students will be able to report to the LRC at Carpenter and ask for a loaner device. We do track loaner checkouts, and after the third and then any subsequent loaner, parents and teachers will get email notifications, and teachers sometimes have other consequences for students who forget their devices. These are some troubleshooting tips, and especially if we have any students watching tonight, I want them to pay close attention, but this is good information for parents as well. When in doubt, if something goes wrong with your device and nothing else seems to work, turn it off and restart it. You'll be amazed at how often that will solve any technology problems you're having with a computer, a phone, a tablet, or anything like that. Kids are going to be using their Chromebooks on and off throughout the day for learning, and they're going to be in a lot of Zoom sessions or Google Meet sessions for video chats. And that uses up a lot of system resources on the device. The more intensive programs you're using on a computer or apps you're using on a device, the more often it's going to need to be restarted. So I would recommend that students turn off the device every night before they plug it into charge. And that doesn't mean just close it. That means actually fully shutting it down and then turning it back on and signing back in the next morning, so they're starting the day with a fresh boot of the Chromebook. In the event that restarting does not solve whatever problems a student is experiencing with the device, make sure that you contact the child's homeroom teacher right away, so that the teacher knows that there's an issue and they're not wondering why a student's not joining a class meeting or something like that. If teachers are able to help troubleshoot, they will try to do so. If not, they will forward questions to our technology team, which is myself and Ms. Hardiman. You can also directly email both of us if you have questions or need support. And then during remote learning in particular, if you need help, if you log into the PowerSchool parent portal, which is the same place you all would have signed in to register your children for school, there is a place where you can complete a technology support ticket. and our building technologist, which is Ms. Hardiman, who is with us tonight, will contact you to find out what's going on and try to help you troubleshoot. Now, for maintenance and repairs, we, of course, expect the students to take good care of the devices, but we also know that accidents happen. So in the event of damage to the device, depending on the severity of the damage, there will be a charge to repair or replace the device. And you can see the different levels. Again, it depends on how severe the damage to the device is. But you would go, again, to the PowerSchool parent portal and create a technology support ticket, or you could directly contact Ms. Hardiman in that case as well and let her know what happened to the device so she can get in touch with you about getting a loaner to the student and making sure we arrange for the repair or the replacement to be put into effect. Now, as far as signing into the Chromebook for the first time, I know that for our second and third grade students, this is their first year having a one-to-one device in the district, which is very exciting. However, one thing that I think is also exciting is that over the last couple of years, our building had access to additional Chromebook carts that a lot of the first and second grade students were using in the classroom. And so many of the students in D64, even if they haven't had a Chromebook to take home before, have already signed in on Chromebooks and already know how to log in. But in the event that you don't know or your child doesn't know how to sign into their device, if you go to the PowerSchool parent portal, which again, I've mentioned before, that's also where you can fill out a technology support ticket and also where you registered your students for school. And the URL is ps.d64.org/public. And this is slide 16, if those of you who are following along. On that page, you can look up your student's Google username and their Google password, which is what they will use to sign into the Chromebook the first time they turn it on. When the students turn off the Chromebook or close the Chromebook and put it in sleep mode, they will be able to just find and click on their name to sign back in rather than have to type in their email address every single time. But they will need to re-enter their password anytime they shut down and restart. If the Chromebook is only in sleep mode and wakes up, they shouldn't even need to put their password again in. It should just log them right back in immediately. But again, that info, your student's username and password can be found at this site. And if anybody needs just a quick shorthand to help them remember, the formula our district uses for student usernames is the 4-digit calendar year that they will graduate from middle school. So for our pre-K students this year, frighteningly, that goes up to 2030. And then it's followed by the student's first initial, full last name, @studentsd64.org. And then the password is capital D64, followed by the student's 7-digit PowerSchool ID number. But again, you don't need to have that memorized. It's all in the PowerSchool parent portal. I just wanted to let everybody know that that's the formula we use, if that's helpful for parents or students to remember that login information. So we're gonna talk about 2 online learning management systems this evening. The first one is Seesaw, the second one is Schoology. I do want to say right up front, though, that I'm not going to spend too much time talking about Seesaw because even though at a district level, the decision was made that Seesaw would be the primary learning management system for K through 2, and Schoology would be the primary learning management system for 3 through 5. At Carpenter, our second grade team, in collaboration and communication with Mr. Baldoff and Mrs. Crehan, with Ms. Hardiman and myself, and with our Director of Technology, decided that they would prefer to use Schoology as their learning management system. So second and third grade students will be primarily using Schoology from day one, this Thursday, to access daily schedules, announcements from teachers, online learning content, and the like. But I will give you a quick overview of both just in case, because there may be situations where certain teachers will still be using Seesaw in addition to Schoology. So I want to make sure you have the information about both. So there are directions here for accessing Seesaw on the Chromebook. They would log into seesaw.me or app.seesaw.me. However, that's actually already bookmarked on all of the Chromebooks. So if your student has their Chromebook out and if they are signed in, if they open the Chrome browser, they should see a bookmark folder in the upper left-hand corner of their screen called My School Apps. And when they click on that, one of the bookmarks will be called D64 Seesaw. And if students click on that, it will take them to this seesaw.me URL. And then they will see a student sign in prompt where they can choose either clicking the button that says sign in with Google or typing in an email address and password. Now, I am going to stop here for a moment because this was a source of much confusion in spring for remote learning, more on the iPads than on the Chromebooks, but I think it's still important to point out. When students get to when students get to screen number 2 on this slide, they will just click. This is a button that says sign in with Google. Students simply click on that button. They will not type in their Google username where it says email or their password where it says password. They will just click the sign in with Google button, which will then take them to screen 3, where it will prompt them to choose a Google account, and they will simply click on their Google account username, and it will automatically log them into Seesaw. So they'll already have typed in their username and password when they turned on their Chromebook. They will not need to type it again to sign into Seesaw. They will go to the bookmark, they will click the sign in with Google button without typing anything, and then they will click on their Google username and be signed in automatically. Once students are in Seesaw, they can navigate between classes by clicking on their name in the top left corner of the screen. And it will bring up a drop-down of classes for their homeroom teacher, as well as for PE, music, art, etc. On each class page in the upper right-hand corner is the name of the class, as well as links to the journal, which is where students' completed activities will appear, activities which are assignments given by teachers, and the inbox, which leads to daily announcements. If your child's teacher is using Seesaw, announcements would be where they would post the schedule for the day on a daily basis. This is an image of the dropdown. We have the 7 dwarfs as fake student accounts in our district, which is why you see some of these funny names in these screenshots. So Bashful Dwarf is one of our student accounts. And when Bashful clicks on his name in the top left corner of Seesaw, he'll see a drop-down showing his existing classes and the option to join a new class. So that's how students will navigate between classes in Seesaw, clicking on their name in the top left corner and choosing the correct class from the drop-down. So again, I mentioned earlier that daily schedules would appear as announcements. So in order to get to those announcements, which would also include links to class meetings or links to other teachers' activities, students would sign in, they would go to their homeroom class, and they would click on the inbox icon over here on the right, and then they would see their class announcements for the day. And clicking on the announcement over here on the right would show it in full screen in the main navigation on the left side. So that's where students would find their daily schedules in Seesaw. Activities, again, are Seesaw's version of assignments. So if your child is assigned an activity in Seesaw, when he or she clicks on the activities light bulb icon, they will receive a to-do list for the day. It will show them any work they have not begun yet. Then underneath that, it will show an in progress button for any assignments they have started but not finished and turned in. And then, they will see an icon for done. Clicking on that will show any of the activities they've already completed and turned into their teacher. There is an app that you can install on your personal device called Seesaw Family. That is different than the Seesaw app that would be on an iPad for a student or the Seesaw website that students will access on their Chromebooks in 2nd or 3rd grade. So if your child's teacher is using family communication through Seesaw, they will let you know and they will turn on family access and you'll receive an email invitation with a join code. But that's not something that's activated yet. That will be done in the future for teachers who are using Seesaw. Now, as I mentioned, I know I kind of went quickly through Seesaw because, as I mentioned, our 2nd and 3rd grade teams at Carpenter are planning on doing their remote instruction primarily through Schoology. So Schoology, we're going to spend a little bit more time on, and I'm going to make sure that everybody knows where to find everything and how to access it. So Schoology is going to be used district-wide by 3rd grade students to access classes, daily schedules, and assignments, and then 2nd grade students at Carpenter will use it for the same purposes. So we're going to watch a short video of how students would log into Schoology. So I'm going to bring this up and play it right here.
Here to show you how to.
I'm actually going to mute the sound because it gets kind of tinny, and I'm just going to kind of narrate and show you. So if you look on the top left of my screen right now, there's the My School Apps folder. And when we click there, there's a bookmark for Schoology. It looks a little bit different on the Chromebooks. I think it says D64 Schoology, but the folder is My School Apps, and it's in that exact spot in the Chrome browser. So when kids have signed into their Chromebooks, they'll open the Chrome browser. They'll go to this My School Apps folder, and they'll click on the Schoology link. And when they do that, it will prompt them to sign in with their Google username. So they'll see a prompt like this. They should see their username because they'll already be signed in on the Chromebook. They'll click on their name, and it will take them to the course dashboard. This is the main landing page when you first sign in to Schoology. And students will see thumbnails of all the courses in which they are enrolled. Now, something I should mention at this time, especially for those of you who maybe have had your student log in, or if they're logging in right now, Schoology courses are only set up to be visible to students during the grading period. And since the grading period for trimester 1 does not begin until Thursday morning, there's a good chance that your student will not be able to see any of his or her courses until Thursday morning. So I don't want anybody to panic if they're signing in right now, or if they sign in tomorrow and it lists 0 courses for the students. That's because the grading period has not yet begun. Once the grading period begins and students have access to their courses, they'll see thumbnails for all of their courses. There will be more than 4, but students will be able to scroll to see all of the different thumbnails, and they'll also be able to see any courses they're enrolled in using the, actually that's not on this screen, so we'll come back to that later, sorry. They'll be able to see any courses they're enrolled in by scrolling through, and by clicking on a thumbnail, it will actually open up the course where students will see their content. Now, if for some reason the bookmark gets deleted and a student needs to get to Schoology, they could also type in learn.d64.org in the address bar and hit enter on their keyboard, and it will take them to the same page where they can sign in with Google. But that bookmark is already there on the device, so there shouldn't be a need for students to type that in or look for it. It should be there automatically. Let me just get back into my present mode here now that we finished the video. So once students have signed in at learn.d64.org or using that bookmark, they'll see their course dashboard, and the course that students should go to, the first thing every day is their attendance course. So there will be an attendance course for every homeroom teacher, and that's the course where teachers are being directed to share their schedule for the day. So when they click on the thumbnail for the course, it will take them to the course materials page. So if you look at this screenshot right now, there's this left-hand navigation menu, and materials is the first item on the top left. This is the main hub of Schoology. This is where most of the content that teachers are sharing and students are accessing will be found for each course. Any assignments, multimedia content like videos or audio files that need to be shared, Google Docs that are shared, assessments, any of that. And again, just a reminder, that may not be visible to students until Thursday. The other section that is an important one for parents and students to know about is the updates section of courses. So I mentioned that students will start their day in their attendance course in Schoology. In the updates, that's where teachers will have posted the daily schedule. Now, it might not look exactly like the screenshot you see here. Different teachers will create and share their schedule in different ways, but it should be available in the updates section of the course. And it should be right at the top as what we call an announcement. That's a special type of update in Schoology. It's set to always stay at the top of the feed so that whether the kids are in materials or updates, they'll see it at the top of their page when they go to their attendance course. Within that schedule, teachers will share Zoom links to class meetings to start the day, links to any other teachers' courses if they need to go to a different course, for example, for music, PE, or art, or foreign language. And they'll also see any other links that students need to access for meetings with other teachers or other groups of students throughout the day. And, updates is also a section of Schoology where teachers can share reminders or upcoming events or information with parents and with students. Another feature of Schoology I want to make sure everybody is aware of is the messages tool. So when a student signs into Schoology, at the top of their screen, they'll see this dark gray main navigation menu. And in the top right corner, you see this envelope icon, which we've all come to recognize as the universal online symbol for email. And that's how students and teachers both will access the messages within Schoology. So although every child in District 64 has a Google for Education account and username and password, they do not all have access to Gmail. Students don't get access to Gmail until middle school in 6th grade. So our K-5 students, before this year, they've never had anything that was similar to email. So I'm very excited about this feature of Schoology because this gives teachers the opportunity to directly message students online without having to email parents first and say, could you ask your son or daughter about this assignment that's overdue, or remind them that our meeting tomorrow is starting at this time instead of the normal time. They can actually send those messages directly to students, and that can foster more student independence. The other thing that's nice is that students can send messages to their teachers using the messages tool as well. So if your child has a question about a homework assignment, if they have a social emotional concern that they want to communicate with to the teacher without having to bring it up in a whole class Zoom session, this is a way that students can reach out to their teachers and ask questions. And they can reach out to any of their teachers for any of their subjects. And just in case anybody's wondering, student-to-student communication is turned off. So they will not be able to send messages to their classmates through this tool, only to teachers. And teachers can send messages to students, one another, or parents through this platform. So this is just a GIF that I made of a screen recording demonstrating basic navigation of Schoology. So you can see I'm clicking on a thumbnail for that course, and it's taking me to the materials feed of the course. From there, I can scroll down and I can see all the different folders and files that have been shared. I can open up and view the contents of a folder. I can click on any of the left-hand navigation items to get to that section of the course. And then up at the top, in that dark gray bar, I can click back on courses anytime if I need to go back to my course dashboard to switch between my attendance course for homeroom and my math course, or my Spanish course, or my art course in Schoology. So students can just go up to that top navigation, click on courses, and get back to the dashboard to switch between classes and teachers throughout the day. Zoom is not owned by Schoology. It is not an official Schoology product, but it does have a tool that is built into Schoology that students and teachers can access. So this year, students who are using Schoology will be attending meetings with their teachers and with their classmates, primarily in Zoom. So there is a Zoom client, which is kind of a built-in tool that teachers will be able to install within a Schoology course, and then they'll be able to share those Zoom links right in Schoology with kids, and the kids just click on the link on their Chromebook, and it will open up the Zoom client and it will sign them into the meeting. The teacher will have to admit them first. We've got built-in layers of security there. So only students who belong in the Zoom session will be in the session, and they'll be able to communicate with one another, see each other's faces, hear each other's voices, even during even during remote instruction. There is also a calendar feature in Schoology. So if students have Schoology homework assignments that are turned in digitally, if the teacher assigns a due date to an assignment, it can be viewed on the calendar. So students and parents alike will be able to have access to see when upcoming assignments are due, or when tests might be coming up in the future. Just be aware that different teachers may use this tool at a different degree, especially at the start of the year. So if you have questions about how often or what type of content your child's teacher might be posting on the calendar, that's a question that's best communicated directly to the teacher. So parents can also create their own Schoology accounts, and you'll be able to log in and you'll be able to see course updates, assignments that your children have been assigned, discussions they've taken part in Schoology courses, etc. So you'll see directions on how to do that coming up. So you will create your own account at the website schoology.com, but in order to create your account, you will need a special access code, and that access code is actually found in the PowerSchool parent portal. And again, I referred to that a couple times earlier in this presentation. That's where you registered your children for school at the beginning of, or earlier in the summer. It's also where you would go to create a technology support ticket, and it's where you would go to find the code to activate your your parent's Schoology account to connect to your children. Now, we did get a helpful tip from one of the 4th or 5th grade parents in the previous session, and that is that each student in your family will have his or her own unique code. So if you have more than one student in the district, you will have to enter more than one code when you're creating your account so that you have access to all of your students' information through Schoology. So I'm not going to have everybody walk through these steps right now, but I want you to know where you can find this information. So if you are following along in the slides, or if you want to check later on, we are on slide 33 of the 2nd and 3rd grade presentation, and there's a link at the bottom. Oops, sorry about that. That you can click on for specific directions, step by step, on how to set up your account. So it shows right here that in order to find that code, you'll log into PowerSchool. You'll go to the remote learning icon and look for the 12-digit code for your student. So that remote learning icon in PowerSchool looks like this. You can see where my arrow is circling around right now. That's where you'll go in PowerSchool to find the code. Then you'll navigate to Schoology.com. You'll sign up as a parent, and you'll paste in that code when they ask you for that information when you're signing up. So those steps can be found again on, whoops, sorry about that, on slide 33 of this evening's presentation. The parent view looks pretty similar to the student view when signing into Schoology. So you'll be able to see all of the courses that your student is enrolled in. You'll be able to see calendar information. You'll be able to see graded assignments that your student has already turned in and gotten feedback from a teacher. You'll be able to see upcoming assignments. Oh, look, we have calendar on there twice. I just noticed that. And parents will also have access to the messaging tool in Schoology that I mentioned before, which is like Schoology's built-in version of email. So if you create a parent account, you'll have the ability to send messages to your students' teachers or receive messages from them. I do want to caution you to make sure that you check with your students' homeroom teacher and other teachers about their preferred method of communication, because even though this messaging tool in Schoology is there, we all still have District 64 Gmail addresses and accounts as well. And traditionally, our district Gmail has been the main method of communication between most teachers and parents, or phone calls. So I would suggest reaching out to your students' teachers to ask them if they should still contact, if you should still contact them through their Gmail, or if you should send them messages in Schoology. So that is all the information that we're going to be sharing tonight about Schoology. And again, we will go into the Q&A section in a bit and answer questions that people have typed in. But I want to tell you a little bit more information about Securely, which is that security tool that filters content on the students' Chromebooks. So as I mentioned, the goal is to filter out inappropriate content, sites that students shouldn't need access to, or we wouldn't want them to have access to on the device. There are certain pre-designated categories that are also blocked on the internet. And it does record network misuse, which means if a student is repeatedly trying to access a specific website or type in a specific search term that's flagged as inappropriate, the building administration and tech department get notifications about that, and parents can find that information too if they sign up for a Securely Parent Portal account. And we'll talk more about that in a bit too. So Securely filters general internet use. So again, certain terms that students might search for in Google or other search engines are automatically blocked or filtered. Certain YouTube channels or content, certain categories like certain types of games, social media, all of that should be filtered and blocked. And then we're going to just watch a short video giving you a little bit more information about the Securely Parent Portal.
This is Mark, and I'm here to give you a quick walkthrough on how parents can keep track of their child's online activity on the Securely Parent Portal. You will get an email from Securely in your inbox. The email gives you a snapshot of the sites that your child has visited. items searched online, and videos watched. To get an in-depth view of online activity, the parent must click Go to My Portal. This will take the parent to Securely's Parent Portal registration page. Just a couple of boxes to check, and you're signed up for free. Now that you're in, you can see a complete picture of what the kid has been up to. The entire list of sites visited, videos watched, stuff searched. If there is something to be concerned about, we will show it in the Flagged Activity tab. Next up, there is the Account tab, where you are able to change your password. The Connections tab here will show you if there is any other parent associated with your child. You can accept or reject that connection. Once the connections are established, this tab will be empty. There will be no more connections to show. So, this was one way of accessing the Parent Portal. There are other ways to do it too. When you sign up, you receive a welcome email from Securely. The email will have your username and password. You can use these credentials to log into the Parent Portal from the Securely website. A simpler option is to just click Let's Go and sign in directly. You would arrive at your Parent Portal dashboard and see the child's data. Easy as that. Raising responsible digital citizens is just as important as raising socially responsible kids. Securely's Parent Portal allows the school and parents to share that responsibility by keeping them informed and engaged. Thank you for signing up for the Parent Portal by Securely. Have a nice day.
So there is a link for more information on slide 40 if anyone is following along or wants to look for that later on to sign up for the Securely Parent Portal. So you can, when you sign up, you can receive weekly emails with internet activity reports for any of the students in your family. So if you have multiple children in the district, you can get all of them in one report. It will show you any flagged activity for that week, any inappropriate searches or websites that were attempted to visit on the device, any sites that were blocked, and everything in one place. So it's something that I would recommend signing up for. If I were a parent in the district, I would definitely sign up for that. As far as the question slide here, I honestly don't know for sure if Mike is still our official Securely district rep, but I would just recommend that any parent with questions about Securely directly contact Mary Jane Warden. She is our Director of Innovation and Instructional Tech in District 64. Her email address is here on the slide, mjwarden@d64.org. And you can also look her up in the staff directory in the tech department. Mary Jane Warden, mjwarden@d64.org. And that would be for questions about the Securely filtering features. On this slide, there are extra links and resources that you can refer to. I'm not going to open them up right now. But for the Chromebook, if you need support in connecting to your home Wi-Fi signal, you can check this link here. The D64 technology page has information about Chromebooks and links to different people's email addresses you might need to contact. Here again is a link to the One-to-One Learning Handbook. That's the document that I strongly encourage parents and students to read through and discuss together. And then for parents who are just looking for other ideas, suggestions, tools and resources for helping our students become the best digital citizens they can be, Common Sense Media is a great resource that I use a lot, both as an instructional coach and as a parent. And there's also Need Help Now. So those are just good resources to go to for more information. So thank you all for attending tonight. We are still here. We're still recording the session. We're going to get to the Q&A in just a moment and answer some of your questions. And then again, I just want to encourage anybody who still has questions after tonight to contact any of us via email, and we'll answer anything we can. So I'm going to ask Ms. Hardiman now to open up our Q&A, and she's going to read through the questions, and then we will all respond to them.
Okay, so regarding printing, is Google Cloud Print going to be enabled for students as well?
So as long as your printer is compatible with Google Cloud Print, my understanding is that you should be able to set it up so that the students would be able to print to your home printer. So unless Ms. Hardiman has anything to add to that, that's my knowledge on that.
No, it's the same. Will we be getting a schedule for Thursday? I work and I will need to know when to block my schedule to assist, at least for the first day.
I think I'm going to let Mr. Balda field this one.
Yeah, I can jump in on that one. So in terms of the day, you can just think of 8:50 to 3:30, right? So we're looking to have all of our kids sign in live at 8:50 with the live link that their teacher provides. If you shoot me an email, I can send you kind of the schedule that the teacher is going to have for that day. If you need to individually plan, the teacher is going to have their schedule posted in the AM attendance class, but that's not going to help you if you don't see it until Thursday. So if you need to specifically schedule from 8:50 to 3:30 and you need to know when certain live instruction is going to be happening and when we're going to change from reading to math to science to social studies, all those things, feel free to email me and I can copy and paste the schedule and send it to you. But in terms of planning for your day, plan on, if you want to help your child, make sure that they're getting signed into the live link at 8:50 in the morning.
Will the teacher's email address be preloaded in the message feature, or will students have to type in their teacher's full email address?
So in the messages feature in Schoology, it's not an email address at all because it's not connected to Gmail, although teachers can get Gmail notifications when they get Schoology messages. There's not a Schoology email address. So how it works is that when the student clicks on the mail icon to start composing a message, they have to type in a name for who they're looking for. So the best bet would be to start by typing the teacher's last name. And if it's an unusual last name, probably only the teacher will appear. If it's a common name like Jones or Smith, there's a good chance student and teacher names might appear, although I think no for students because they shouldn't be able to message classmates. But even if there are multiple teachers with the same last name or similar spellings, they'll get a drop down. Kind of, if those of you who are Gmail users might know, if you start to type a person's name, you'll get a drop down of people whose names match the letters you've typed so far. It works the same way. So for example, if I was a student in Mr. Turin's 4th grade class, if I typed T-O-R to start Turin, his name and maybe a couple others with similar spellings would show up in the drop down and I could click on his name to send the message to him.
Can more than one parent sign up for Schoology with the same code?
That's a good question. Yes, they should be able to. We haven't tested that out that I'm aware of, but I'm fairly certain they could, because you would want to have the ability for both parents in a family to receive emails, notifications, have access to content for the children in the family. So you should be able to sign up and create parent accounts for more than one parent.
How will my child see their schedule for the day?
So that will be shared in, actually, let me go back to our slides, but that will be shared each day in the attendance course in Schoology, and that will be in the updates section. So when your child turns on his or her Chromebook at the start of the day, he'll go in the My School Apps bookmark folder, click on the Schoology bookmark, sign in with Google. From the course dashboard, he'll click on the attendance thumbnail and be taken to the materials page for the attendance course. Teachers are being shown how they can share this update, which would be their daily schedule, as an announcement, which means when they post it to updates, it will pin it to the top of the screen and will also pin it to the top of the materials feed. So it will be visible in both places. So even if the kid starts their day in materials and not in updates, they'll still see it right here at the top. And they'll be able to click on it and view any links to a Zoom session they need to join, links to other teachers' courses they need to go to for specials or other things throughout the day. So that should be posted every day at the top of the attendance course.
Okay, so this is a really good question. If 2nd grade is moving from Seesaw to Schoology, then would any art, music, and PE assignments also be in Schoology, or will they still need Seesaw for those?
That is up to the art, music, PE teachers to decide. So Teachers will be communicating with the specials team. So for example, if Mrs. Grosso decided that she was going to post a PE lesson in Seesaw instead of Schoology for a second grade student, she would make sure that the second grade teacher had that information and had the link to the Seesaw activity. Or teachers can also share Seesaw activity links in Schoology. So my recommendation, and in my coaching with teachers, if they were working with second grade students, would be if they're planning to use Seesaw, I'll teach them how to put the links into Schoology so that the students have the same navigation experience.
Will there be any alerts or alarms available to announce the start of the next class, session, or Zoom call?
So we got the same question in the previous session. We do not have a method for that in place yet. We're looking at some different ideas and options, but there's not a built-in feature in any of our platforms that will automatically make noises or flash the screen or sign kids in or out of things at designated times. I don't know, Mr. Bolt, if you want to add on to that.
I do want to jump in on that a little bit. If there's one piece of it though where by using Zoom as our live conferencing platform, it has a different feature than Google Hangouts does, and it has breakout rooms. So depending on how the day is going and what's happening with the breakout rooms, the teacher does have the ability to put kids into a breakout room and set the amount of time that they're in that room and then have it bring them back. So for example, if I'm a third grade teacher and I'm teaching reading at 9:30 and I happen to set my breakout groups for kids from 9:30 to 10, it might pull them back, and then at that point in time the teacher might start math. So although I'm not going to say that every single teacher is going to do that or that's going to start every single time, that is a feature that's available in Zoom if some of our teachers are using that.
Extras like speech, how will that work? Zoom, scheduled with teacher.
I can jump in on that one. So for like our related service providers, speech, social work, occupational therapy, physical therapy, for our interventionists, we have a lot of different specials, right? Or related service providers. So they all have their own courses. So the kids, when they sign in, if we did it right, every child will have a course. So our children that get speech language therapy should have a course in their Schoology that says speech. I think it's speech. I think it might say speech language. So it's going to be connected with either Mrs. Dykman or Miss Wolfley, who is going to be working at our school one day a week. So the kids will have a course in there. And then in that course, the speech language therapist is going to put a live link to be able to access them. And then we also are coordinating to have our therapists send their links to the teachers as well, so that the teachers can post those links into their schedules. It's kind of, we were working on this all day today. It's kind of a big systemic approach to try to make it easy to navigate. But each child that has those services should actually have a course in Schoology. And then the link for their live sessions will be in their Schoology course.
So it looks like I'll wait a minute or so, but we don't have any more questions as of right now. So we'll wait and see if anything else comes up.
Sorry, I forgot my mic was muted. I do see that Mary Jane Warden did come in with an answer to the question about student access codes. She says parents can each use a particular student access code to associate their own account in Schoology parent portal or app. So if I understand that correctly, I think what that means is that if, for example, in my family, if I signed into the PowerSchool parent portal as myself, Kevin Michael, I would find a code that I could use to create a Schoology account to connect to my children. And then if my wife were to go in to her own separate sign into the PowerSchool parent portal, she would get her own code unique to her name to access Schoology for our kids. I'm not quite positive that I'm understanding that correctly, but I think that's what that means. Again, not having used Schoology as a parent yet, I'm not 100% sure if that's correct, but it looks like that might be the case. We'll try to find that out and get back to the parents who are asking that question.
Do you access Zoom in Schoology?
Yes, so the teacher will create the Zoom session within Schoology. The link will be shared in the Schoology materials feed and in the schedule for the day, and students will click on the link in Schoology and it will open the Zoom client on the Chromebook.
On the daily schedule, will the special appear on their daily schedule? And then will they need to go to the Schoology link for speech for a live meeting?
So I'm gonna cover the special question first, and then I'm gonna ask either Mr. Baldoff or Ms. Crean to come in and clarify on the speech question, because we talked about that a little bit already. So for specials, on Thursday, when the students first sign in, one of the activities that teachers will be doing with kids is teaching them how to navigate between their different courses in Schoology. So the homeroom teacher will be the one to interact with students first on Thursday morning. And part of the process of teaching the kids how to navigate the platform is they'll teach the kids how to get to that course dashboard and how to access their courses for their specials. So how to get to their music course, how to get to their PE course, et cetera, and find the content shared by those teachers. And then Mr. Baldoff, do you want to come in about the speech question?
Yeah, and like I shared, they have our children that get those types of special services, like speech, for example, would have a speech course within their Schoology. So then the child should navigate to their course, and within the course would be the link for the therapist, the live link to get there. But again, like what we're coordinating and working on is having the therapist also share their links with the homeroom teachers. So something that's happening, so you guys are aware, is, over the next 2 days, our teachers are going through professional developments with Mr. Michael and some of our other instructional tech coaches throughout the district. And we're providing them with like these different templates that they can use, right, to do all this linking, because we realize and understand, one, our, parents' level of anxiety or stress about that, as well as our kids. And we want to try to make it as easy as possible for the kids, once they're in Schoology, to get to where they need to go, to find their live links and to find their materials that teachers are and therapists and things are sharing with them. So it's not all prepped and set and not out yet, because we're providing the teachers with that professional development over the next 2 days and giving them the time to actually do it, because there's a lot of work with getting people's different links and connecting them and linking them and posting it and all that stuff. So the teachers are all going to be working on that over the next day or two.
Is the parent Schoology account similar to the use of the parent Power School account? Should we use one over the other? And are there differences?
They're completely different. So Power School is used for parents to enroll students in school. It's used for parents to access personal information about student accounts and student data. Schoology, the parent Schoology account, would be used to basically keep yourself up to date on what the students are doing on a day-to-day basis during instruction. So it'll give you access to the daily schedule that teachers are sharing with students, access to online assignments, access to updates, announcements, the calendar, those types of things.
So if a child has a CFC or similar class that they will need to navigate, how will they know to go to that course? Will their teacher tell them?
For certain instances, it will be in the daily schedule. I think Mr. Baldoff mentioned for certain services for privacy purposes that would be communicated just with the students or students and parents. But I believe, and Mr. Baldoff and Ms. Crean, I know we kind of went back and forth on this a lot today, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there will be a link to CFC in the daily schedule for those students who will use it.
Yeah, to get to the courses. And then, we're going to be doing a lot of work with the kids on that, so that the teacher would say, okay, right now, remember, for our students that are in CFC, if I'm live with our kids, I'm going to say, okay, remember now at like 9 o'clock, we're starting reading. So for our kids that are in CFC, you need to go over to Miss Pasley's or Mrs. Sakor's, course, and she's going to have her live link in there. So you guys go sign off and go click onto that particular link. So we're going to be doing a lot of coaching with the kids for the first couple of days. But like we talked about today, I think once they get used to navigating and the way that we set it up, it's going to be a lot easier for the kids to kind of navigate through everything.
This might be teacher specific, but will the Zoom instructions be recorded and accessible in Schoology to view at a later time? As a full-time working parent managing 3 e-learning students, if we miss a live session, I'm worried that they may miss an instruction at some point.
For legal reasons, teachers cannot record live video sessions that students are attending. So teachers have the option to pre-create video lessons that kids would watch in their own time and then respond to or have Q&A sessions about in class, but live class meetings cannot be recorded.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add on to that. I think the other thing to be aware of is this, and this is gonna address Mrs. Siegel's questions too, is that it's a lot different than it was in the spring. This is what I'm saying, whereas like last year when the live sessions were happening at different times and teachers were adding them and, they might have done it, one day at this time and then changed it. Like this year and in the fall, we're following the building schedule. So the schedule is going to stay the same every week, with some, obvious things that teachers might move this or this around, but math is at the same day, every time. Reading is at the same time every day. Writing and science and social studies, PE, all that. Your child's weekly schedule is going to be the same every week. And the teacher is going to be starting live instruction at the beginning of every content, right? So on Thursday at 8:50, all the kids are going to sign in. Teacher's going to coach them through it. And then they're going to start a class or whatever. And then when they get to the point where they're like, all right, it's time for you to go to PE, the teacher is going to be directing them exactly what to do. So the first couple days of school, like Thursday and Friday, your teachers are going to be working with the kids of practicing going from one live to another, moving from course to course. So the kids are really going to learn this. And we're also going to be tracking attendance too. So we're going to keep an eye on all of our kids so that if we're losing them and they're not joining live sessions, we're going to be figuring out why. And then for the next question about the schedule times of live meetings doesn't conflict. It's not going to conflict this year. It was more of a problem in the spring because we weren't necessarily following a building schedule. This year in the fall, we're following the building schedule. So I worked with our related service providers, and we sat down with our building schedule and we looked at it grade by grade, and we were planning and scheduling based on the schedule so they weren't missing core content. But please keep in mind, some kids are pulled during the extra block. Some kids might be pulled during science and social studies, so they might miss some of that live instruction, but none of the related services are pulling from reading. They're not pulling from math. They're not pulling from writing time. So just to answer that.
Can both parents have their own PowerSchool accounts, or should they have the same?
So I'll let Mr. Baldoff chime in if I have any of this incorrect, but I think this ties in with the earlier question about Schoology accounts, and I did get a follow-up from Mary Jane Worden in the Q&A, so I want to clarify because I think I might have confused people with the information I shared. So for Schoology accounts, the code that you get from PowerSchool is a single code per student. So parents could or could not choose to have their own unique PowerSchool parent accounts. That's up to families to decide, or you could both log in with the same person's email and password. If you want each parent to have their own Schoology parent account, you would do that using the same code, but with your own unique email addresses. So again, in my family's case, I could go to Schoology.com, enter my daughter's code with my email address to get notifications on my device and in my email account for her. And then my wife could go to Schoology.com, use the same code from PowerSchool for the Schoology access, but create her own Schoology account to get the same information on her device. So for PowerSchool or for Schoology, it's your choice whether to have one or two accounts. It just depends on whether you want to both have your own unique logins and unique access to information.
What happens when there's home connectivity issues?
If you have a method for successfully contacting the child's teacher, let them know as soon as possible. So like, for example, if your Wi-Fi goes out or your power goes out, but you still have enough battery life on your phone and an LTE signal to send an email, please do that. You know, teachers will be understanding because we know that, you know, we can't control our power, we can't control our Wi-Fi. So everybody's doing their best, and I think people will understand if there are issues with students signing in from time to time.
When students are in a breakout room, can the teacher still see and hear all the students and supervise them in their conversations?
No, because the teacher can only be in one breakout room at a time. So the way I explain this is it's akin to being in the classroom and students working in small groups in different parts of the room. So I was a classroom teacher for 10 years, and when my students were working in small groups, I would be with one group of students at a time. And although I was in the same room and space as the other groups of kids, they were talking quietly amongst themselves. I had no way of knowing what they were saying to one another because I was focused on that other group of kids that I was with. So to a certain degree, there's an element of trust and, of course, expectations set by the teacher in advance of what the students in those other groups need to accomplish while I'm with the other group. And teachers in Zoom will set those same expectations and requirements, trust the students that they'll be on task, that they'll have some kind of product that they'll be working on or consensus they're coming to, and then teachers can move virtually from one breakout group to another and check in on the groups just like they would move around the classroom and check on small groups one at a time.
And it looks like we have no more questions.
All right, well, I want to say thank you again to all the families who joined us. I hope this was helpful and informative. I do want everybody to remember that if you have further questions at any point, feel free to reach out to any of us on this panel. We'll be happy to help you and answer your questions and support you and your students in any way we can.
And if you've got any questions on Thursday on day one, you know, feel free to email us too. Like we told the group for 4 or 5 that, you know, if you're having problems on Thursday, you can email all 4 of us. And then one of us, you know, based on kind of what we're doing at the time, one of us can respond to you and just reply all and say, I'm on it, and kind of help support you. So we're looking forward to having everybody back. But if you need any help or support, you can email all 4 of us as well.
Ms. Crean, do you want to mention what you said to me earlier about first day schedules being shared with parents?
Oh, yes. All of the teachers, hi, everyone. All of the teachers will be sending out a welcome letter that will also include a link for that first time the students are logging in, 8:50 on Thursday morning, just to kind of quelch any of those jitters or fears about what if they can't get in or where do they go. So they'll have specific directions about how they do it the first time, and then they will spend time during that day kind of versing them on Schoology and how to get around and navigate with that. But they will send emails that kind of outline all of that from the beginning. So they'll know exactly what to do that morning.
All right, well, thank you once again. Have a good night, everybody. We're looking forward to the first day of school on Thursday. And Mr. Baldoff sees one more question, I think. You're muted, Mr. Baldoff. Mr. Baldoff, your mic is off.
Like someone asked if we needed to submit attendance like in the spring, and the answer is no. We're not going to have one of those Google spreadsheets or Google forms to do that. However, if your child is not going to be in attendance, you do need to call the office, because our teachers are going to be reporting attendance every morning. And if someone is not there, we will do a cross-check with the office. So if your child's sick or has a doctor's appointment or something, please make sure that you contact the office and let them know. Okay, that's it. All right, thanks everybody.
Bye, have a nice night.